Hello and welcome back. In this video, what we're going to be talking about today is a certain method of visualizing our data. Okay, so in our last video, what we talked about was the mean, the mode, median, and the range, which were they're called statistics, and they're sort of tools that we use as mathematicians to summarize our data, to analyze our data, particularly if we have a lot of data, okay, just to gain some information about it, okay? But that doesn't give us a way of actually seeing what the data looks like unless we're presenting it through the form of numbers, and that's not always helpful to us, okay? So what this video is going to talk about is a way of visualizing our data, creating graphs and all of that sort of stuff that allow us to see certain patterns and certain trends inside of our data, okay? And the one that we're going to be focusing on today is what's known as histograms. More importantly, in this first part, frequency histograms, okay? Now, I'm just going to move this up so you can see this little drawing that I have down here. This is a drawing of a frequency histogram, okay? And all a frequency histogram is it is a special column graph that uses the columns, okay? So this is a column graph. It has columns going up, okay? And it uses the columns to show frequencies, or how often a score occurs in a data set, okay? Remember, a score was just our individual number, okay? And this just talks about how often in a data set, for example, the number 2 might occur. You'll notice that if we look at the column here for number 2, okay, that's our score of 2, it has a frequency of 3. So it occurs 3 times in our data set, okay? If you look at the score for 3, it occurs 5 times, okay? So here on our left-hand side, we have our frequency going on the vertical, okay, the vertical axis, and we call these lines the axis. Okay, and on the horizontal axis, we just have a list of our scores and how often they occur. Okay, now with frequency histograms, we have some certain rules that we have to follow when we're drawing them. Okay, and that's what makes them special. It's what makes them histograms, rather than what's known as just columns graphs. Okay, and with these, the things that make them special, okay, is the fact that the columns here are joined together. Okay. So the columns are joined together. They're right next to each other. And the other thing that makes a histogram special, okay, and different from a column graph is that while there's no gap in between the columns going up and down, there is a little gap between your first column, so this one going up here, and the vertical axis, okay? So you don't draw your first column up against the vertical axis, okay? And that is what defines the rule for a histogram, any histogram in fact, when you're talking about this, okay? So what I want you to do now is we're going to jump into an example about how we actually graph these and what we can use to create them so we can analyze them, okay? And then we'll talk about the benefits of each of them before the video ends. Okay, so here's our first example, and what it says is to graph the following data into a histogram, okay? And I've given you just a list of data. Remember in our last video, we could calculate the mean, we could calculate the mode, okay? We could calculate the median, because all of our data is in order, so we don't have to order it, okay? And I suggest you do that again, all right, if you're given a data set that's not in order, okay? Right, but in this particular question, we're going to try and graph this to visualize what's actually going on with our data, okay? Now, first things first, right? We're going to draw up what's known as a frequency table. Okay, frequency table. And to draw up a frequency table, okay, what we do is we have a table with 2 columns. One saying score, okay, and the other saying frequency. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. For our score of 1, okay, I'll write down 1, and then we have a score of 2, have a score of 3, have a score of 4, okay, and a score of 5. Notice that I only wrote down in this left-hand side each score once, even though we have multiple in our original data set, okay? Remember, score being the just the individual number, okay? And what I'm going to do is on this frequency table, I'm going to tally up, okay, how many times each of these scores occur. And if I look here in my data set, well, 1 occurs twice, so the frequency is 2. 2 occurs 5 times, so the frequency is 5. 3 occurs 4 times, so the frequency is 4. 4 occurs 2 times, so the frequency is 2. okay, and 5 occurs once, okay? And what we're going to use this for is this is going to tell us the height of each of our columns, okay, when we draw out our histogram. So what I want you to do now is I want to organise a bit of room on your paper, okay? And we're going to actually draw a histogram out. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to use a bit of graph paper to help me out here. And the reason why I'm going to use this bit of graph paper to help me out, okay, is because I want this just to be accurate for the video that we're talking about. You won't necessarily always have this, okay, but we'll use this to just illustrate the purpose of actually drawing a histogram, okay? Okay, so first things first, let's draw our horizontal axis, okay? Now I'm going to get a ruler, and I really encourage you to get a ruler here, and I'm going to draw a line that is horizontal across my page, okay? Now, right, what we're going to do along each line on here, okay, is we're going to write out our score in the box. Now remember, okay, when we do this, we need to leave a gap. So I'm going to leave a gap of 1 square because we're drawing a histogram. And in this square, okay, in the center, I'm going to put my score of 1. And in the next square, I'm going to put my score of 2. And then in the next square, I'm going to put my score of 3. Okay, and in my square after that, I'm going to put my score of 4, and after that, 5. Okay, and I put them in the middle for a reason, okay, just so you can see what I'm doing, all right? Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw a vertical axis. Now, you could have done this first if you wanted to, okay? It wouldn't have mattered, all right? I just wanted to illustrate how we draw the horizontal axis. And I'm going to draw a vertical axis going up here, okay? You can match it to how much data you have. I'm just trying to give this bit of visualization when we do this, okay? And then what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to, on each of these lines, label out, okay, what my frequencies will be. Now, if we go back to my frequency table, the highest frequency I have is 5. What I should do with my graph is I should include an extra step above that, okay, so it doesn't reach the top of my graph. So I'm going to start here at 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm going to go 1 step further, okay, and add in 6, okay? So now I have my vertical axis, and I have my horizontal axis, okay? I'm going to add some arrows to my line so I can say they continue on if I wanted to, okay? And now I'm going to label each of my axes. So here we go for my horizontal axis. We're talking about our score on my horizontal axis, okay? And on my vertical axis, what I'm actually labeling, okay, is my frequency. Remember that. That's how often a score occurs, okay? So what I'm going to do is either side, now let's actually get on to graphing our particular histogram, and I encourage you to use a ruler, okay, when you do this. I want you to realize that, remember, on our frequency table, 1 occurred twice, just like in here, okay? So I'm going to start on the opposite side of 1, leaving that little gap there for my histogram, okay? On the left-hand side of my 1 dash, okay? And it occurs twice, so I go up 2 boxes, and I come across and draw back down. So there's the first bar for my frequency histogram, okay? 2 then occurs 5 times, okay? So I then draw for my 2 column, okay? I connect to my next column, right? There's no gaps in between. And I draw up to 5, and I draw another bar. Okay, of course you're doing this with a ruler. I'm only illustrating the purpose here. All right, so we've done 2. Okay, remember 3 now occurs 4 times. So I go across to 4, all right, and I draw down to 3. Okay, and then 4 occurs twice. So here to 2 times, and I go down to 1, and 5 only occurs once. And what I've done here is I've actually created a frequency histogram, okay? Now, you might want to spend the time to colour this in, okay, just so you can make this look nice, okay, because remember, you are trying to communicate information. I'm not going to. I'm only here to illustrate the purpose, okay? But this is a histogram for this set of data, all right? What I want you to realise that we can use this for, and this is the whole purpose as to why we visualise our data, and this is really important, okay, is this allows easily for us to look at a graph and go instantly, okay, fantastic. we can see what our mode for our data is. It's the one that has the highest frequency, the one that occurs the most. So our mode for this data is 2. Okay? We can also quite easily look at the range if we haven't got this organized. Okay? And go, all right, well, that's 5 minus 1, so our range is 4. Okay? There are so many ways that we can use histograms, including analyzing the shape of our data. Okay? Is it bimodal? Is there 2 bumps? Okay? All right? It's a very useful tool for us as mathematicians rather than looking at a list of numbers. Okay? Because if we just look at a list of numbers, we might not be able to get useful information out of it immediately. It's just to make our lives easier. Okay? So that's how we draw a basic frequency histogram. In another video, I'll show you how to draw one that's a little bit more complex, okay, that has more data that we're going to use to group. Okay? So I hope this helps you out. Okay? Have a fantastic day.